Have you ever started something with full energy, and then slowly stopped? At the beginning, everything feels clear. You feel motivated, focused, ready. You make plans. You imagine results. You tell yourself, this time I'll stay consistent. But after a few days, something changes. The energy fades. The routine breaks. And suddenly, you stop doing the very thing you once cared about. Then comes the frustration. You ask yourself, why can't I stay consistent? Why do I always quit? Why do I keep starting over? And the worst part is, this is not the first time. It's a pattern. And patterns don't happen by accident. They are created by how your mind works. One of the biggest reasons you are not consistent is because you depend too much on motivation. Motivation feels powerful. It gives you energy. It pushes you to start. It makes everything feel possible. But motivation is emotional. And emotions are temporary. They change based on your mood, your energy, your environment. This means if your actions depend on motivation, your actions will always be unstable. Some days you will feel strong. Some days you won't. And on the days you don't feel like it, you stop. Not because you can't continue, but because you don't feel the same energy anymore. And slowly, inconsistency becomes your habit. At the beginning, you are excited about the result. You imagine success. You imagine change. You imagine becoming better. That feeling drives you. But when the real process begins, things are different. The work becomes repetitive. The results are slow. Progress is not visible every day. And that excitement starts to fade. Because your brain was attached to the outcome, not the process. When the process feels boring or difficult, your mind loses interest. And without interest, motivation drops. This is where most people quit. Not because they are incapable, but because they were chasing a feeling, not building a system. Your brain is designed to save energy. It naturally avoids effort, discomfort, and uncertainty. Consistency requires all three. It requires effort. It requires doing things even when you don't feel like it. It requires repeating actions that don't always feel rewarding. So your brain resists. It looks for easier options. Scrolling your phone, watching videos, doing small, comfortable tasks. These feel good immediately, so your brain chooses them. Over time, this creates a pattern. Avoid effort, choose comfort, delay progress. And that pattern becomes automatic. Another reason you struggle with consistency is because you start too big. You set high expectations. You create big plans. You try to change everything at once. At first, this feels exciting. But quickly, it becomes overwhelming. Your brain sees the effort required and starts resisting. Because big tasks create pressure. And pressure creates avoidance. Instead of moving forward, you delay. And once you break the routine, it becomes harder to return. Consistency is not broken by failure. It is broken by overwhelm. Without structure, consistency is difficult. If your actions depend on daily decisions, your brain has to choose every time. Should I do this now? Should I wait? Should I skip today? Each decision requires mental energy, and when that energy is low, your brain chooses the easiest option, which is usually doing nothing. Structure removes this problem. When something is planned, fixed, and clear, you don't think, you act. And that makes consistency easier. Many people don't fail because they stop completely. They fail because they break the chain and don't restart. They miss one day. Then they think, I already messed up. So they miss the next day too. This creates a dangerous pattern. Perfection thinking. You believe consistency means never missing. But real consistency means returning quickly. Missing one day is normal. But turning one missed day into a week is what breaks progress. Take a moment and ask yourself something honestly. Are you truly inconsistent? Or are you only active when you feel like it? because there is a difference. If you only act when you feel motivated, you are not building consistency. You are following emotion. And emotion changes. Some days you feel ready. Some days you don't. If your actions depend on that, your progress will always be unstable. Consistency begins when action continues, even without the feeling. That is the shift most people never make. The solution is not becoming more motivated. It is making action easier. And the easiest way to do that is by starting small. Very small. Not big plans. Not long sessions. Just simple, manageable steps. Because starting is the hardest part. When a task feels big, your brain resists. But when it feels small, your brain allows it. Once you start, something changes. Resistance drops. Focus increases. Momentum builds. And suddenly, continuing becomes easier than starting. Small actions are not weak. They are powerful. Because they make consistency possible. Motivation is unreliable. So instead of chasing it, you replace it with systems. A system is something you follow, whether you feel like it or not. It removes decision-making, because decisions create resistance. But routines create flow. For example, doing something at a fixed time every day is easier than deciding randomly, because the decision is already made. Over time, your brain adapts. It expects the action. And what once felt difficult becomes normal. That is how discipline is built. Not through force, but through repetition. Here is something most people don't realize. Consistent people are not always motivated. They just don't depend on it. They act on days they don't feel like it. They continue even when it's boring. They show up even when it's hard. Because they understand something simple. Results come from repetition, not from motivation. Motivation starts things. Consistency finishes them. And the difference between starting and finishing is what creates real change. You are not inconsistent because you are weak. You are inconsistent because of the way you have been approaching action. You depended on motivation. You chased feelings. You waited for the perfect moment. And that moment never stayed. But the moment you stop waiting and start acting, even without the feeling, everything changes. Consistency is not about doing everything perfectly. It is about showing up, again and again. Even on days when you don't feel like it. Most people never learn this. That's why they stay stuck. But you don't have to. If you want to understand your mind, build real discipline, and finally stay consistent, then stay connected. Because this is just the beginning.